Good morning, St Thomas. I'm out with Ruth, just having a bit of a walk and chat about how long we've kind of known each other. And I first met Ruth in, I think, 2004 or 5, doing a ministry training program. And Ruth was there as well, and she was privy to probably one of my first sermons. It was a tragic sermon. I was very nervous, and Ruth was one of those people that gave really positive feedback.
I don't remember this at all.
And we'll continue to walk, I think. So we're down at Gardeners Creek at the moment, just about to cross the little bridge. And this is a significant week for us at St Thomas, for Ruth, and just thought we'd go out and have a bit of a walk and a talk about this. I met Ruth, obviously, as I said, at the ministry training program, but then we were also students at Ridley together. And Ruth was pretty significant for me going to my first curacy, and which was in South Melbourne. She knew the minister there because Ruth knows so many ministers from all these different dioceses, has played a significant part. And so when I was deliberating between two parishes, Ruth was the one that convinced me to go with South Melbourne. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I think that was one of those moments where God just sticks you in a certain place, and you happen to be the one person in Melbourne who actually knows this new minister who's come to Melbourne, because he was a curate at our church in Canberra, where we got along really well with that family, and our children kind of grew up together. And I just knowing John and knowing this particular minister, I just could see a great connection. And so I just happened to be having morning tea, and I just said that. And that might have swung John towards what he might not have otherwise known. So, one of those random things where God is so at work.
Fast forward a number of years, 2015, I think I was walking past you in Healesville, and you came running up to me and said, "John, I don't even think you remembered my name," for a brief moment.
It was terrible. I was on the footpath having coffee, as you do in Healesville. I never go to Healesville, or I didn't back then. And John Carrick and Susie and the kids walked up the street, and just previously I'd been talking to Sue Wheeler about who would be someone in the entire diocese who would be perfect for St Thomas, and I said, there's only the one. It's John Carrick. And then John walks towards me, I forget his name, and I go running up to him, and I just leave my friends, and I race off behind this stranger and say, John, you have to come to St Thomas.
So I've always jested since that I rely on Ruth to let me know where I should be heading next. Ruth is responsible for me being at St Thomas.
Well, really God is, but...
But the news, one of the big reasons why we're actually meeting today is because Ruth is taking on a new role as priest in charge at St Philip's, Mount Waverley, which is fantastic news for Ruth, but very sad for St Thomas's. Ruth, your pastoral impact across every congregation is extremely significant, and I know there's going to be many tears with this news. We want to celebrate with you, but I fear that a lot of us are going to be not in a celebratory mood. Not to make things hard for you, but we're going to miss you and Andrew deeply. Shall we keep walking?
Yeah. I guess I just want to say that I'm feeling a bit numb and a little bit, feels a bit surreal, really. But perhaps I've kind of guessed that this might happen and not ever really thought it would. And then about a year ago, probably subconsciously, I began to feel an unsettling sense, and I generally resist those quite successfully, but this one just kept going, and I just began to wonder whether there was something else God wanted me to do. And I, again, had to get to be feeling pretty not right before I did anything about it. And then when I did, things began to move quite quickly. And St. Philip's Mount Waverley is not far away, but it's a very happy but small church, and it's difficult to find anyone to go there because it's a part-time one, and yet it's one of God's families and in need of a pastor, and they have been looking, and it just seemed like perhaps as I got to meet some of them that it just might be a good fit. So despite my grief and the strain, something in me responded to that, and I checked it out with some pretty important people in my life who know me well, who've worked with me, and who can tell me off and tell me when something's a silly idea. And anyway, they all were in favour. So eventually, I have to say, took a while, and so that's that. Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing news. Well, here's a bench. We can probably grab a seat here. Okay, do you mind if we just sit here, please? Okay, maybe Ruth, if you sit there.
Is this Ruth Coneyburn dressed up as Oh my goodness!
You got me.
I know Ruth Coneyburns back when she's dressed up as a somebody looking really strange construction worker. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful! Thank you.
Physically distanced.
Oh, John. Oh my goodness. Well,
Did you have a nice walk?
Well, yes, the friendly gimbal has finally played.
Accompanied you.
Yeah.
It's just a thank you from all of us, Ruth, because we can't
Look at
do
these.
something in the service together.
So beautiful. I love flowers.
Maybe I shouldn't have hugged you. I just
No,
say the Bollywood dancers are coming up.
It's just caught, something has just caught the back of my throat. A bit of eucalyptus
Smell.
skunk. Yeah.
Well, we'll be hearing more from Ruth. Well, if I can get this gimbal to work properly. And you'll be writing for the newsletter coming up very soon. And we just want to celebrate with you as much as we can. This wonderful news for you, very sad news for us. But you'll need to sign something in regards to coming back to St. Tom's, which I think most people will want to have that in writing. Thanks, St. Tom's.
I'm happy to do that anytime.
Bye, St. Tom's.
See ya.